So one of the things, the piece of our brain that makes us human is something called the frontal cortex, in particular the prefrontal cortex. And surprisingly, given the name of this part of the brain, it's up in the front. It's right under your forehead. It's in the front. It's called the frontal cortex. This is how complicated brain science is, just as an example. So what the frontal cortex does, though, is really remarkable. It changes, it's the last place to develop and it's the first place to decline in humans. It's the most susceptible to toxins and to oxygen deprivation. It is what makes you, you. It waits to develop because it cares a lot about making sure that you behave properly in your context. So you really do have a brain that is sculpted to your experience. This is where you will see experience, is in the frontal lobe. If we looked at our visual systems, we all have very similar visual systems. We don't have very similar frontal lobes. A little bit here and there in terms of overarching things we have in common. Now the reason that I have the conductor up there, and an easy way to think of the frontal lobe is to think of the frontal lobe as a conductor. It's in the front of the head and it's actually looking back at the rest of the brain. And what it's doing in this analogy, the way that a conductor produces music is very similar to the way the frontal lobe produces behavior. No behavior comes out of a human being without the frontal lobe's involvement. Okay? You cannot behave without a frontal lobe. So when any behavior comes out, the conductor who's conducting this music has to figure out, has to rehearse and has to practice how much from each section do we need, what timing, how is it done, how is it played. Now let's say that the conductor had been practicing the Brandenburg concertos all week, ready to go. Taps the baton, raise your instruments, and the temporal lobe or the horn section says, yeah, you know what, we're going to play some Earth, Wind, and Fire. How would that sound? That wouldn't sound good. That's bad behavior. That's how bad behavior happens. Its frontal lobe has a plan, and someone else says, yeah, I'm not really under your control yet, so I'm going to do my own thing. Babies have frontal lobes. They don't work like adult frontal lobes because they're immature. And what a lot of people take as being maturity is the physical growth of something, of it becoming bigger. And that's not actually the way the brain matures. The brain grows by becoming more coordinated, by taking on additional responsibilities. So the stuff, the tissue, all the brain that you're going to have is pretty much there when you're born. It does change a little bit, but it's pretty much there when you're born. What's going to happen is subtle changes in the way it talks to itself and the speed with which it can talk to itself. So over time and experience, it becomes more coordinated and more well-suited to your particular life. Now, like I said, without the conductor, without a frontal lobe, nothing happens. No behavior, nothing. How many of you have seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? Quite a few of you. Okay, remember Chief in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? And a lot of people didn't raise their hands. So it's also, if you have not seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, just think of anybody under 16 before 7 a.m. It's exactly the same. I'll do a quick impression. This is actually both. This is Chief from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and any teenager before 7 a.m. Okay, thank you. That's pretty much what you get. So if you hear they're offering a discounts on lobotomies, say no. Decline. You don't want that. Disconnect the frontal lobe, no behavior. And you want behavior. You want experience, you want to learn, you want to make use of that learning, and that's what the frontal lobe does. Now,